Hey guys, it's Chris Hernandez from Houston Combat Photography. No, I hadn't made a video in a while, so I wanted to make one about a pretty cool camera I fairly recently acquired and finally got to use, and that is this awesome Graflex Super Speed Graphic. This is the very last camera made in the Speed Graphic line. So if you don't know about Speed Graphics, that was the camera that was used to take the famous flag-raising at Iwo Jima picture. It was considered basically the best press camera of its time, and it was kind of the standard by which others were judged. They started off in late 1920s, early 1930s, something like that. Here's an early Speed Graphic. This one's had the lens replaced. It doesn't have the original, but no rangefinder on the first ones. It's got a shutter in the lens. It's got also a focal plane shutter, which is a curtain back here. You've got this tensioning system. You wind it up. You can take a picture with that. If you're going to use this, you have to lock this lens open so you can compose your image on glass in the back. But this was, early on, this is more or less what they look like. Eventually, they started adding improvements to them, like an integrated rangefinder right here. This is a 1953 Korean War issue Speed Graphic. They had more movements on the front. They were just basically better made and more capable as they went on. And then eventually, in the late 60s, early 70s, you had the Super Graphic and the Super Speed Graphic. So what was important about this, or what was different about this? Basically, it's called a super speed because it could shoot at 1/1000th of a second, whereas cameras before could do up to 1/500th of a second. This could do 1/1000th, and it could be cocked much, much faster. So on the early Speed Graphics, if you were using the lens shutter, you have to cock it with this little lever here, easy to miss in the heat of combat if you're doing military combat photographer stuff. That's how you cock it. Okay. On the super speed, to cock it, so you take a picture and there you go. That's how it's cocked. So there was a couple interesting things on this camera. One is for the for the Speed Graphic, the older Speed Graphic, to release the shutter, if you're using the focal plane, there's a little trigger back here to release the focal plane shutter. If you're using the lens shutter, then you've got a little release lever right here. Again, that's something pretty easy to miss in the heat of combat. When I'm shooting reenactments, I use this one right here, and it's, you could miss it when you're rushed. This one, they pretty much took away that little lever. The lever is so small. It's this little itty bitty tiny thing right here. It's so small, like nobody expects you to be able to manipulate that in the heat of battle. So it seems like they just expected you to have a shutter cable release on it all the time. So I have this one on here. I leave it on there all the time. It closes up just fine with it attached. And you would probably, for combat, have this zip tied on here or something like that, and you just take pictures with it that way. As far as an operation. So in operation, these work basically the same as these, except this one has no shutter curtain. You see there's no controls. The only shutter it has is here in the lens. But basically, say you're taking a portrait picture in a studio kind of setting, you have this set up on a tripod. The usual thing that you do, just like with any other large format camera, is you open up your front lens, you open up your back so you can see the ground glass. On this one, on most of the older large format cameras, you generally have to cock the lens or put it on O, lock it open. Some of them have a switch on the lens that'll open it up, but generally you have to have it cocked. This one, it doesn't matter whether it's cocked or not. There's a little lever right here. You just flip it and now you're open. So now you can compose your image. So as you can see in these pictures, there's a picture of the corner in my groovy man room / studio room. And if I'm going to take a picture in that direction, I open the lens, open up the back, compose on the ground glass. I get that really cool 3D looking image. that is upside down and reversed. And once I have it, once I've got my focus as perfect as I can, I'm either using a magnifying loop to make sure I'm in perfect focus, or if I'm trying to do things faster, I use reading glasses. And once you have all that, then you close your lens. You just flip that lever right back. Now your lens is closed. Now you can put in your film holder, pull your dark slide, and take your picture. So initially I bought this, it's been over a year, but when I bought it, it had been stored in humid conditions somewhere in southeast Texas, and the humidity, the moisture had trashed the lens, especially the rear of the lens. So, like, it's functional, it works, it's just that it was so damaged, the glass was so damaged, I really could not expect to use it. But it's still functioning. So I was looking around trying to find a replacement lens. Eventually, I found somebody selling one for pretty cheap. I bought the lens for $140. I bought the camera itself with accessories and a case and all that for $100. So basically, all in $240, and I've got a really cool camera. Oh, I should mention this one was also an Air Force camera. It was issued to a Wayne Barchak, who I found out he just recently passed away, I think within the last year. But mine is marked with his name, and it's got the military nameplate on the front. So when I got the good lens several months back, I went ahead and took some pictures, some really beautiful pictures of my wife, and I can't show you those because they are really beautiful pictures of my wife. But then a couple weeks ago, I had a chance to go to San Antonio, spent a couple of days there, and I went out on the Riverwalk. Decided, Riverwalk's all lit up real nice and pretty for Christmas, so I'm going to take one long exposure picture on the Riverwalk. I went and found one of the streets that crosses over the Riverwalk, and I took a picture just of the lights. There's actually a boat that was sailing through at the time, or, motoring through. The restaurant lights on the sides, all that stuff. And if you see those light streaks down there on the bottom, they are not from light leaks in the camera or anything like that. I think it was traffic behind me because I was on the street, because I have not gotten any light leaks on any of the other pictures I've taken with this. Okay, one other thing I wanted to point out about the super speed graphics, a little bit different. Most lenses have a B and a T setting. If you don't know, these are both options for holding your shutter open if you want to do long exposures. So say you have, you're set up to do a night shoot like I was when I was out on the Riverwalk, and you need to do a 5-second exposure. You can set it on B, and if you put it on B, then you depress the shutter and you hold down the shutter release, count to 5, and then release it, the shutter will close. If you have it on T, then you press it and release it, the shutter locks open. Whenever you're ready to close it, you press and release the shutter button again, and it closes. So the way I remember is that T means twice. The super speed graphic only has the B setting, only has bulb, which is fine, except that on most cameras, when you're doing a bulb setting, you take your picture, it's a very distinct opening and closing that you hear. This is one of my baby speed graphics, a 2x3. So right now it's on bulb, listen for it to open. Very distinct, and then when you release it, that's very distinct. But on the super speed graphic, when you have it on bulb, it kind of drags, and so if you're listening for that very distinct click to start counting, it can screw you up. And then when you release it, it does it again. It has, like, there's a bunch of machinery moving around in there. So you have to practice to make sure that, as soon as you depress the shutter, don't listen for the distinct click because it may drag. Just start counting as soon as you press it, and then release it, and don't worry about the extra noise it makes. There's a little quirk about this camera. But I also had a friend of mine, his daughter had recently graduated from college in San Antonio. I happened to be there. She wanted graduation pictures, so I took a couple of, several digital and then a couple of film photos. And here's how the film photos came out. So this one that I took out on the Riverwalk, thought it looked pretty cool. This one I took in a hotel lobby, and I just think it's, you know, I love that kind of vintage look, you know, the look on her face, the furniture, which all looks kind of old and classic. And I really like how the camera performed those pictures that it produced. Now, I had taken another one, which I think probably would have looked even better. However, I had a developing tragedy. So I developed those 4 shots I took in this Stearman Press developing tank. I bought this when I first got into 4x5, and I love this tank. Stearman Press, Timothy Klein from Stearman Press, who came up with it. I mean, this is a great design. It works fantastic. However, I screwed up. And I screwed up on something really stupid of me. So inside, when you're loading this tank, you have 2 racks. Okay, 2 racks like this. And each one of them, it takes a film sheet on each side. Very simple, right? I somehow, and I still don't know how I did it, I've never done that before, I somehow put both sheets of film on one side. So this is actually 2 sheets. And as it turned out, the film sheet on the outside, it survived. So that picture of my friend's daughter in the hotel, it somehow survived the developing process. I had some damage around the edges, so I had to kind of crop in closer. You can see a little bit of damage in the top right, but the picture survived. The inside film sheet didn't. That one was totally ruined. So lesson learned. But anyway, just wanted, again, quick video just to let y'all know the Super Speed Graphic. It is a beautiful, beautiful camera. It's got the built-in rangefinder. It's not like on here, on this camera, the rangefinder is sort of an external attached piece. On this one, the rangefinder is built in to here. So you can't see it separately, but it's in there. It's got that really awesome focusing scale up there on top. Gives you a very precise measurement of exactly how far away you're focused. For some reason, you can't use a rangefinder. You just use that scale if you know your distance to your subject. You'll also notice there's this battery compartment right here, which I have the door for. It's just not on there. They don't make those batteries anymore. These batteries would allow you to use this little red button here to release the shutter, but they don't make the batteries anymore. It doesn't matter. You don't need it. And if you have that cover off, it affects absolutely nothing at all. And besides that, I hate any camera that needs a battery. I just don't trust them. So again, Super Speed Graphic. It is a really cool camera. If you're into Vietnam War reenacting and want to do taking pictures with an authentic camera, these were used in that era. I'm pretty sure they were actually used in Vietnam. But camera is not nearly as heavy as these older Speed Graphics. And I am looking forward to taking some more really awesome pictures with this. If anyone has any questions, please hit me up. And again, Chris Hernandez from Houston Combat Photography. And until next time, y'all take it easy. Go take some cool pictures.